Teacher Enoch Burke was back in the High Court today. He was seeking a number of orders, but he was seeking an injunction essentially which would pave the way for his release from Mountjoy Prison. He was seeking 4 injunctions in total. He has been brought back to Mountjoy Prison. The High Court judge involved did not grant the injunction. She was satisfied, the judge was, that he'd not made out a strong case for the order sought, and the balance of convenience was against granting them. 3 of the injunctions which he was seeking aimed to restrain the disciplinary procedure against him, and they did not need to be addressed now because those steps or no further steps were going to be taken in the disciplinary process by Wilson's Hospital School without at least 3 days' notice to Mr. Burke. So there was no need to deal with those 3 injunction applications of Mr. Burke's according to the High Court. He complained about the legality of the decisions to put him on paid administrative leave and to invoke the disciplinary process. But again, the High Court judge found that these could not be addressed at the injunction stage in the High Court. They would be decided at the full hearing of the proceedings between him and the school. What he was effectively seeking, the High Court judge found, in the 4th injunction application was a mandatory order which would restrain the school continuing his paid administrative leave pending a disciplinary process and pave the way for his return to school. She had to balance the needs of the school to function without further disruption to the pupils and Mr. Burke's rights to his religious beliefs and various other constitutional rights. She said that Mr. Burke was entitled to hold the religious beliefs which he had. She had no doubt that his religious beliefs were genuine, but she said that the decision by the school to place him on paid administrative leave was not an attack on those beliefs. She also told Mr. Burke that it was important that he didn't conflate his right to religious belief with the basis for the court proceedings. So he's been brought back to court. He argued that he had a strong case for the injunctions on grounds including the process breaches his constitutional right to free profession of religious belief, that the process had gone irredeemably wrong and his suspension was legally unsustainable. However, Rosemary Mallon, the barrister for the school, urged the court to refuse the injunctions, saying that there was actually no basis for them. Mr. Burke was effectively seeking to appeal to the High Court against the High Court order, which could not be done, and to be freed from prison without purging his contempt, and to resume teaching in breach of a court order and his paid suspension. The disciplinary process is not complete and conclusions have not been reached, despite claims by Mr. Burke to the contrary, she added. He had made clear that if he gets the orders, he'll be back in school immediately, and this was of grave concern to the Board of Management of the school. He was not prejudiced if the injunctions were refused, because he continues to be paid, and the fact of his continued imprisonment is down to him refusing to purge his contempt, counsel added. So there you have it, Mr. Burke's attempt by way of 4 injunction applications in the High Court has failed. He's gone back to Mountjoy Prison. He will be given 3 days' notice of any further steps in the disciplinary process. Clearly the disciplinary process is not going to proceed with him in Mountjoy Prison. So the obvious way for Mr. Burke to be released from Mountjoy is to purge his contempt. But today, Wednesday, I think it's the 14th of September, he's going back to Mountjoy Prison. His application has failed, and the High Court judge did make the point that Mr. Burke is perfectly entitled to hold his religious beliefs. She said he held them genuinely, but he's conflating the beliefs that he's holding versus the process that he's involved in, the disciplinary process, the employment law process, and the High Court order that has seen him ending up in Mountjoy and returning to Mountjoy this evening. Hope you find this video informative. I'd appreciate if you give it a thumbs up down below, and you may be interested in making a comment. Obviously people are quite exercised and quite interested in this teacher, and there's obviously pretty strong views in many quarters.